welcome back to 10 Count from Hollywood Smoke in Santa Monica. I'm joined by Michael Baca and Doug Fischer of Ring TV. Guys, it was Fight On from Old SC at the Galen Center on Showtime. Couple of title fights for the WBA featherweight belt. Abner Mares is your new champion, winning via split decision over Jesus Cuellar. And for the IBF junior middleweight crown, Jermall Charlo blasts out Julian Williams in 5 to retain his belt. Doug, going to Mares Cuellar, he was effective, wasn't really exciting. Is he really what you would call, even with this win, an elite 126?
No, he's not elite, but I think what he does with this victory is he gets back into the 126-pound mix. I didn't really consider him to be a real featherweight contender coming into this fight because of all of the questions swirling around the health of his eye, his inactivity. He had been out of the ring for more than a year. And when you're out of the ring for more than a year, more than 12 months, most publications that bother to rank boxers, they drop you from the rankings. You know, out of sight, out of mind, and that's kind of how it was with Abner Mares with me. But with the victory, he did remind us that at the very least, he can be effective against world-class opposition. And that's what I would call that performance. I thought he won legitimately. We can debate about the margin of which he won, but I think he was the guy who really kind of controlled most of the action, or another way to put it, sort of contained more of the action. Lot of grabbing, a lot of holding. There was some ugly stuff in there. And if you recall, Mares at his best, when he was facing elite bantamweights and junior featherweights, this is how he had to win. When he came against beating somebody like Victor Chinian, or Joseph Egbeko at bantamweight, or Anselmo Moreno at junior featherweight, it got ugly in there. It wasn't always fun to watch. He's not the action hero that he's sometimes ballyhooed as.
But Doug, I'll say this. I don't remember that much grappling, and Jack Reese, who I like, started enforcing the rules. Clinching and hugging and holding.
Yeah, it's not boxing, right? It's not. I agree 100%.
Mike, you were there inside the arena. How did you see the fight?
I thought Mares clearly showed he was the more versatile fighter. I thought Cuellar was a little too one-dimensional. He didn't really mix up his game plan. And Mares fought off the back foot well. He kind of run around a little bit, but he did what he had to do. Went to the body really well against Cuellar.
I had it 114, 113 for Abner Mares, and a dream fight, because I think there's so many storylines here with the former manager and Frank Espinoza Bull. And I think it's an LA fight that could fill a big arena. And again, it's going to take people to work together and reach across the aisle. Doug, if you can make a wish list of 5 fights you can make next year, I would want to do Mares, Oscar Valdez.
Oh, that's an excellent fight. And one thing about Valdez is he has the style that Abner Mares was supposed to have once he got to the world-class level. Both guys, Mexican Olympians, really, really accomplished amateur boxers from Mexico. Both guys who were raised in the States, so they speak perfect English. Both guys obviously had a lot of potential. Mares, to a large extent, reached his potential. Oscar Valdez is on his way, but the great thing about Valdez is he has a style at the world-class level that is very entertaining to watch. He is what we used to call Shane Mosley, a power boxer.
Yeah. Also on this card, the co-feature, I believe a slight upset despite him having the belt. I got to tell you, Mike, we said Julian Williams passes the eye test, which also means he's never been proven. This is what happens when you get hit for the first time. I was a little bit surprised, in fact, a lot surprised by the result of Jermall Charlo, Julian Williams.
I wasn't that surprised. I don't think I would call it an upset. I believe Jermall was favored in this fight, just slightly. I think it was minus 130.
Yeah, he was the higher-rated junior middleweight going into the fight, but J-Rock he really had sort of the ground support. He was sort of kind of like the underground guy, the hardcore fight fan favorite, and I would say maybe the favorite among the media. And not so much because of what he had done in the ring, but just because of that sort of hard-nosed mentality. I think the mystique of the Philadelphia fighter. And also, I would say his trainer, who's also sort of a quasi-member of the media.
Man.
Yeah, Stephen Edwards. And I think Edwards sort of afforded a degree of goodwill towards Williams, who's not really, I mean, he's a smart guy, but he's not the brightest personality out there. So there were a lot of people who were, if not picking Williams, they were backing Williams going into this fight.
You know what's
so
alarming,
that's why it kind of seems like it was an upset. But I agree with you, Steve. I was surprised. I'm not surprised that Charlo won, because I viewed him as the bigger guy and the more athletic of the two. He's the more dynamic, the quicker, the more explosive of the two. But to win in that fashion, a fifth-round stoppage, that kind of blew me away.
You know what's alarming, though? That uppercut that he ran into where he got caught in no man's land, lost control at distance, that happens. You could run to a perfect punch. I still remember Terry Norris in his first title run against Julian Jackson. He looked spectacular for 3 minutes. Second round, he made one mistake. The fight was over. Ended up having a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, but that was against Julian Jackson.
But aren't you alarmed, guys, that a simple jab not only knocked you down, because I've seen that happen, his legs were wobbly. And I was like, ooh, maybe we just found out something about Julian we didn't know before.
Maybe, but I think Jermall Charlo is a very strong super welterweight, and
who looks like a super middleweight.
He looks like a middleweight.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it.
Seeing him for the first time in person and interviewing him in the days leading up to the fight, I was kind of blown away at how tall he was. He's legit.
He's over 6 foot. Yeah.
Legit 6 foot, maybe 6'1".
Yeah.
And he's a giant out there. I think he has an eraser, evidently, right? So I don't. We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
With Williams.
Maybe J-Rock has a shaky chin, but maybe Charlo has world-class
That's my
power.
point.
And by the way, there was no drug testing. And the PBC, when they had their grand arrival last year, they announced to everyone, we will do comprehensive drug testing. And I know that the Williams side was kind of saying, hey, where is it? And they have a right to have all the questions answered and really demand a level playing field just to erase any doubt or suspicion. By the way, I thought it was hilarious the way Charlo acted. He was not going to take the congratulations. The olive branch was thrown, and he shoved it on the ground. He said, get back to Philadelphia. I had no problems with it.
I didn't either.
This is boxing. This is not Wimbledon. We are not drinking tea and crumpets here. I think there's way too much civility in sports with guys trading jerseys and shaking hands and hugging. I want some old-fashioned animosity and hatred. That's what made Marvin Hagler so great, that, you know what? He didn't necessarily embrace you as an opponent. It was personal.
You were the enemy if you were his opponent, and you could say the same thing about James Toney.
Yeah.
You could say the same things about terrible Terry Norris.
Bernard Hopkins.
Hopkins, he was that way. Fernando Vargas, he was like that. Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera. Part of what made that trilogy so special was the hate was genuine. And this is why I have no problem with Charlo behaving the way he did immediately after scoring, a career highlight knockout. There's an adrenaline rush.
Yes.
He didn't just win.
Yeah.
He knocked a dude out that a lot of people were saying was going to knock him out. So there's a victory over. If he had any doubts, he conquered those doubts. So obviously he's going to celebrate. But there was also some bad blood. Nasty things had been said between the two camps leading into this fight, going back like a year or so.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is it was genuine in the moment, and once he cooled down, he was a little bit more respectful. He still wasn't hugging and kissing. There wasn't no Victor Ortiz bro hugs going around, and I like that as long as it's honest. If it's honest emotion and it happens to be some rage, I think that's okay in a combat sport.
You know, Doug, the bottom line is this, and you look at some of the memes on Twitter where people compare the Charlos to Milli Vanilli, okay? But there are a lot of people that can't differentiate between Jermell and Jermall. I thought that was the first time that Charlo actually moved the needle. And looking at, if you were there, how lustily booed was he? Wasn't it great to hear?
It drowned out his apology. The fans didn't even know he was apologizing. The boos were too loud. But yeah, in the moment, I remember watching. I was like, my first reaction was when I saw Julian come up and try and say congratulations. And I think the quote from Jermall was, "I don't want your congratulations. I want your apology."
And that's fair.
I love that kind
of stuff. And to the victor go the spoils.
And I remember thinking to myself, what's Jermall doing here? Just fake handshake. I do whatever. But I think realizing that he did have this adrenaline rush, and that's completely understandable to, kind of just relish the moment of what he just did. And what he just did was make a statement. That's a huge
There are a
statement
lot of
knockout.
people that will now have a vested interest in having Charlo lose the next fight. That's interest. That, you know what, heal it
That's
up.
not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Heal it up. Go
Yeah.
full Roddy Piper, Jermall.
Yeah.
Do not
Embrace
change.
it. Embrace
Don't
it.
change. Don't apologize. Okay, that's just my opinion. Anyway, on behalf of Doug Fischer and Michael Baca, this is Steve Kim saying till the next round, the next edition of the 10 Count. Goodbye, everybody.